happy to introduce Penny Goldstein. And I just want to give you the introduction that you deserve, Penny. So Penny is originally from Philadelphia and graduated from the Philadelphia area from the Tyler School of Art with a bachelor's degree in fine arts and art education, and received her master's degree in art therapy from New York University. She taught and worked in many different settings as an art teacher, art therapist, and Judaic and Hebrew teacher. And she currently teaches at Jewish Academy of Orlando as an art teacher for grades K through 5 and Hebrew Judaic studies for kindergarten. And prior to moving to Orlando, she was the art teacher at Hebrew Day School in Ann Arbor and the assistant to the director of education at Beth Israel Congregation. She also taught art at the Ruth and Raymond Perlman Jewish Day School in Philadelphia for 7 years and at the Hillel Day School in Tampa for 5 years.
I think it's called Hillel Academy now. I realize that.
That's okay. You've worked at so many different Jewish day schools and academies that I get it. Which is why you were such a perfect fit for Ramat Aram as Omanut professional from 1999 till 2015. And you also spent 8 summers in Omanut for Yofi and returned to Ramat Aram in 2021 as Rosh Omanut for Machzor Aleph. So thank you so much, Penny. And we're so happy to have your instruction. Great. So what are we doing tonight?
We're going to talk a little bit about micrography and how you can use it in Jewish art. I'm going to try to share this again. Here it is. Can you guys see this? Can you see my screen or no?
Yes.
I'm just going to move this over. Does this move it? Oh yeah, okay, now. Okay. So as we can see, micography is a Jewish form of calligraphy, and it was developed in the 9th century, and it utilized Hebrew letters as representational for geometric and abstract design. So what they did was they took an image, a familiar image or a picture, and then used the words to show the picture rather than filling it in with paint or other things. And here's some examples of an older form of micography and then some more modern imagery. Sometimes artists will take a Torah portion, and as we can see here, we have one of Noah and in releasing the dove and the rainbow. What I did was I've done lots of different ones, and I just have some. I did this for the teachers at the JCC, which is in Orlando, right next door to our school. I did a in service for them, and I created my own blessing for my art room. And I also just did one using lots of English and Hebrew words to create an image of a chamsa. So it can be, it was a really short one, so I decided to also give them some imagery that they could fill in addition to the micography, the words. And you can use anything. You can combine micography with pictures. You can do all micography. You can leave the background blank. You could add watercolors to make it more finished looking. And we talked about tonight doing one for a Birkat Habayit, since a lot of chamsas do include Birkat Habayit to be in the home. So I have one that I believe a rabbi that I worked with at Perlman, Chaim Gelfand, developed or found for me. And I included this in both Hebrew and English. And I think Rachel sent this along with also a template. If anybody wanted that, you can always get in touch with her if you're viewing this recording. And basically that can be included inside. It can use for the words to design your chamsa, whichever way you can use them on the outside. I basically just, I'm gonna stop sharing. So that's the whole slideshow. And then I just designed a chamsa here on a piece of paper. And if you don't feel like drawing one by hand, you can always take the one I sent along, cut it out, and trace it on there. If you don't feel like you're so creative at the moment, or you need some some. You can also use any imagery that comes to mind. These, I mean, the pictures were really bad of it, so I brought along the originals of the two that I had done. And basically what I used the words here on this one was I repeated shalom, I repeated chesed, kavod, and just a whole bunch of words that I thought that might creativity, learn, fun, integrity, family, friendship, all the words that I wanted my students to kind of think about when they're in the art room and creating. And the same thing here is I did the blessing for may God bless you. May my art room be filled with blessings for all creativity will be abundant. Let this room be filled with creativity, gratitude, honesty, humility, honor, kindness, love, friendship, learning, teamwork, courage, and just continued that around and around to make the couple rows. And that's really micography. It's a fun form. You can do whatever you want with it. I usually start with pencil. So, or I encourage people to start with pencil to just get going and just follow the outline, the outline, and then fill it in and go as you go around. You can.
So would you start from one of the thumbs and then go from the outside in?
However you want. It really is a personal choice. You can start from the bottom and go up. You can use the fingers. You don't have to. You can go around. It's really, we did one at Ramah when I did a Limud for the counselors for Sevet. And we did, it was for Rosh Hashanah. So we used either apples or pomegranates and that kind of imagery also they were able to use. So, and then I'll use, if depending on what I'm doing, I'll either use just really fine tip markers. And these are kind of fun that you can use, or fine tip Sharpies if I'm going to add watercolor so they don't smear.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that introduction, Penny. And Rabbi Lisak, we would love to hear from you as we're starting our creations, if you have some knowledge to drop on us.
Sorry about that. I had to unmute myself. Okay, so I'll walk through this fairly quickly, but from the outset, I don't have something on Hamsas, Penny.
That's okay.
But I was looking today. It was a busy day at work. I'm the head of school at Barak Hebrew Academy. Used to be Akiba Hebrew Academy, and I was like, oh my gosh, can I teach something short, but that maybe I taught at Ramat Rome at some point during my years there. So I went through my old files and I found an oldie but a goodie story that I actually taught at one of our Friday night tishes many summers ago. I don't recall which summer. Bobby, if you're there and you remember Nahum Binder, Nahum used to help run the tishes. I was just in Israel last week, so I had lunch with Nahum, and I remember this was something I taught one of those Friday nights. So can I share my screen briefly? Is that possible?
I'm sure I was there, considering I attended every single possible opportunity to learn and do tefillah, like a model counselor at camp. Every single
continues.
Absolutely.
Beautiful. Okay, so this is an interesting one. But I taught this many years ago, and I'll run through it quick, but something I think good to learn. These were actually some of my guiding questions. Thinking about 18 and 19-year-olds, how do you engage 18 and 19-year-olds and choose texts that they might find interesting? So, have you said a mean, nasty, or inappropriate comment about or to someone? Have you learned an important lesson from that act? And if so, what was the lesson? And does knowing a lot of information or Torah give one the right to speak ill of others? So these were some of kind of the set the frame for conversation with our counselors, going back again over 10 years. But I'll go into it and I'll walk you through it quickly. Go back and forth. So there's a story in the Talmud that goes something like this. You know, Tanu Rabbanan, our sages, the rabbis, taught, they were teaching stories about the kaneh, the reed. This plant that lives by the waters and that blows with the wind. And they taught a very famous statement you may have heard at some point. It's better for a person to be rach kekaneh v'yahe kashe ke'erez. A person should always be soft like a reed. He should not be stiff like a cedar. So what does that actually mean? The rabbis like to use stories to illustrate some of their statements and life lessons. So they tell us a unique story. So I'll walk you through this story. I'll do this in English and maybe go back to the original if there's something necessary. An incident occurred in which Rabbi Elazar, son of Rabbi Shimon, came from a place called Migdal Gedor and from his rabbi's house. So he's coming from learning with his rabbi. So he's studying Torah. He's invested in Torah study. He's a rabbi himself. You would think he knows not only by knowing Torah, but knows the values and the ways to treat other people appropriately. So he's riding on a donkey and he's strolling on the bank of a river. And with all of this coming, just learning Torah at his rabbi's house, he was full of simcha gedola, a lot of joy, a lot of happiness. But at the same time, and here's something we have to be careful of, he was also dato gasa. His head was swollen with pride because he had studied much Torah. So this was a rabbi who, you get a sense already that because he had learned a lot of Torah, because he knew a lot of information, maybe he thinks he's better than other people, maybe not, but he's a little bit prideful. So what happens? He happens upon an exceedingly ugly person, someone who's shahaya michar biyoter. And not only does he see this, person who's not attractive, he then goes forward and he says to him, and the person says to him, greetings to you, my rabbi. So this person says hello, but Rabbi Elazar did not return his greeting. He doesn't pay attention to him. Instead, Rabbi Elazar did something even worse. He says to him, worthless, reka. By the way, reka sounds like rach. Reka, which means empty or worthless, sounds like rach, which means soft, going back to soft like a cedar. The rabbis like to do plays on words. Reka, you're such a worthless person. How ugly is this individual, this man? Are all the people of your city as unattractive as you? So this rabbi who supposedly knows a lot of Torah is not acting in the way that a person of Torah should act. He's actually being really mean and really nasty. So what happens? The man throws it back at him. The man says to him, I don't know, but you should go and say to the craftsman who made me, how ugly is the vessel that you made? So this man who was just called out for being ugly throws it back at the rabbi and essentially says to the rabbi, listen, if you think I'm really that ugly, then go tell God, why would you make such a worthless thing? He calls the rabbi to the mat, Rabbi Elazar. So now what happens? When Rabbi Elazar realized that he had sinned and insulted this man merely on account of his appearance, he descended from his donkey, he prostrated himself before him, and he said to the man, I've sinned against you, forgive me. So listen, to the rabbi's credit, he realized he made a mistake, he was called out for it, and he asks for forgiveness. The man says to him, I will not forgive you until you go to the craftsman who made me and say, how ugly is the vessel that you made? Until you essentially say to God, you made a mistake. He's really taking him to task. So what happens? The rabbi walks behind this man, trying to appease him until he reaches Rabbi Elazar's city, until they reach the town of this rabbi. The people of the city came out to greet him, saying, greetings to you, my rabbi, Rabbi, Mori. All the people of the town, they come out, they see Rabbi Elazar coming, and they're like, oh my God, our rabbi's come home, our rabbi's come back, and they go to greet him. And this man who was made fun of by Rabbi Elazar turns and says to the people, "Who are you calling my rabbi, my rabbi?" The people say back to him, "This man who's walking behind you." So the man who was insulted says, if this man is a rabbi, may there not be any like him among the Jewish people. Says the Jewish people don't need rabbis like this. This isn't how rabbis or people are supposed to act, by making fun of people on the street who they find to be ugly. The people of his town say, "For what reason would you say such a thing?" And he told them what he did to him. So then they say to him, they say, well, he may have done that, but forgive him because he's a great Torah scholar, right? There's this idea of like, oh, if you know Torah, you can do something bad. It absolves you of that. He says to them, for your sakes, for the people of this city who call him a rabbi, I will forgive him, but provided that he accepts upon himself not to be accustomed to behave like this. Essentially, change your behavior. Don't do anything like this ever again. Immediately, Rabbi Elazar, son of Rabbi Shimon, runs into the Beit Midrash in his town, and he teaches the following idea. A person should always be soft like a reed, and he should not be stiff like a cedar, as one who's proud like a cedar is likely to sin. Therefore, due to its gentle qualities, the reed merited that a quill is taken from it to write with it a Torah scroll, phylacteries, and mezuzot. Essentially, the conclusion and the end idea is saying that Rabbi Elazar, again, there's a little bit of hubris in here even in the end, but Rabbi Elazar, after being called out, realized he did something wrong. He was too prideful, like a cedar. And what he really needs to be is more like a reed. Recognize your mistakes, be able to be flexible, ask for forgiveness, say you're sorry, all kinds of things like that. And then again, just like a last thing, which actually maybe this is a nice connection for you to you, Penny, as this is an art program. Because of this, the reed, one of those quills, those branches that sits by the water, that's something that you get to write Torah scrolls with, phylacteries, tefillin, and mezuzot, and things like that, coming from this story. So I don't remember the actual Shabbos I taught this, but I do remember it's one of those stories that, people are like, what is going on here? Rabbis making fun of other people. That's crazy. Why would that happen? It's an opportunity to talk about forgiveness. It's an opportunity to talk about humility, about hubris, about all kinds of other things. And if I remember it somewhat correctly, I think definitely a story that gets 18 and 19-year-olds talking. So glad I could pull that out of my my Ramadorom file on my Safari Dropbox account. I'll throw it back to you, Rachel.
Thank you so much, Rabbi Lizak. I don't know, I'm feeling inspired now for my Chamsa to do, some blessing that brings some like kindness and shalom bayit into our home. Yeah.
Looks like Hazel's really busy there.
Hazel, do you want to talk about what you're
Share
doing
yours?
for your blessing?
I need to pop out, by the way, because I have a date with my 10-year-old son to watch the Phils. So
Oh yes, it's starting soon. Go Phils. Enjoy.
thank you guys for doing this.
Good to see you.
everybody.
All right. And I'm going to stop the recording now. But thank you, everybody that tuned in. And we'll see you at the next Omanut project, whatever that is, and whenever it is, we'll keep you posted.